a warning on each. It doesn't matter what age you are. You need to hear this warning. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me again. I'm going to get really serious in this video because it's an extremely serious subject that I bet most of you don't even think about, but it does affect all of us. It will affect you at one point in your life. Now, there's a thing called a healthcare proxy and a power of attorney. And I'm going to warn you right now, no matter how young you are, that you need to get these things done. You need to find people that you can actually trust 100%. And a lot of times, you should shy away from your family. Because I've seen too many times, as I said, I've worked in the law office, how families can abuse these documents, abuse the power that you've given them. Now, in a healthcare proxy usually kicks in when you are unable to speak for yourself. And so you have someone else making the decisions for you that you would have made if you were conscious or you were in your right mind at that time. Sometimes it happens when you're not in your right mind, when you're older. When you get too old, you have someone who's a healthcare proxy. And I've seen it where people were actually in their right mind, but they gave the healthcare proxy to their daughter. And their daughter abused the hell out of them. Now, here's just a little story about someone whose husband died. Husband had enough money, left it to both his wife and his daughter, enough money to both of them. But the daughter, of course, used all her money up. And this is not going to be the story of the prodigal son that came back. No. This is about a daughter that became more and more evil as she got older. Not to kind of a penny pincher, very well educated, extreme Oxford and in Italy. And she was never hit also. She was just when she did something wrong. Her father brought her into his study and talked to her, thinking that would make her a better person. I'm not advocating hitting your child. But I think in this case, she deserved a bigger punishment. But she was a bit spoiled. And what happened was her mother moved back to her home country and bought her own place. And her family visited her quite often and loved her. Now, her daughter ended up adopting a young man or a little boy, baby, from Russia. And there was a couple, husband and wife, who she basically went to court and convinced them that she would be a better parent. And incidentally, the child looked like her attorney. There's this little thing that in Russia, well, they actually make babies to sell. And so this child costs upward of $50,000. Well, she decided one day that her mother, and she was annoyed by her mother, she didn't like her mother at all, was living too long because she was 90 and she didn't understand why she wasn't dead yet. And of course, she told me she didn't understand why her mother wasn't dead yet. And because of my experiences, I did warn her mother, make sure that healthcare proxy is in someone else's name, and the power of attorney and the will, because she can abuse that. And the way this particular person abused the power of attorney was really awful. She hired a private nurse. Now, there are some private nurses I'm sure are perfectly good, though I have encountered more than one private geriatric nurse that wasn't. And I was told by nurses, geriatric nurses, who worked for an agency, that they begged me, that you're the type of person who should be a geriatric nurse, because the geriatric nurses that work on their own have nobody above them. So they can do as they please, and they'll come to visit their whatever for 15 minutes, and they'll get about $250 per 15-minute visit. It's an extraordinary amount of money that they get. But they don't end up working. I've seen more than one case where they don't end up working on the behalf of their client, their patient. So in this case, this daughter hired a private nurse, and this private nurse was 100% on the daughter's side, would do anything that the daughter wanted. So the daughter, because she decided her son, who was failing in school and was causing a lot of trouble, she wanted him to be a movie star. And so she moved to Bel Air, and she put him on this special school for movie star child actors. And this was her life. This would be the rest of her life. So what she did was, she said, that's enough. My mother's lived long enough. She had a woman that the mother did not know come into the house, pull out the telephone so she could not make any. No, the mother was completely sane, completely in her right mind. Little eccentric, but completely in her right mind. Pulled, and I would have totally lost it if this happened to me, and stayed with her for the rest of the night. And the next morning, they strapped her on a stretcher and took her to an insane asylum because for a while there, the mother kept saying, my daughter keeps telling me that I'm crazy and that she's going to put me in an insane asylum. And I said to take her seriously. She will do that. She will do that. Change your healthcare proxy and your power of attorney over to someone that you can trust. Do it. Well, she went to an insane asylum, and nobody there could understand why she was there. In fact, the nurse and the daughter told them that if the family should visit, the family that were the only family that visited her daughter really didn't, should be watched at all times to make her mother come into the cafeteria and watch everything. And they'd never seen this before. It didn't make any sense. And they insisted that everyone was ready to go to court. Everyone who worked there, including the psychiatrist, saying that there's nothing wrong with this woman. She's not crazy. So what happened was a court order went in that if by Monday she's deemed sane, to take her out and send her back home. And that her daughter and the nurse would have no power over her anymore. Well, once the daughter and the nurse heard this, they took her out of the insane asylum immediately. That way they could retain power. And they put her into a nursing home or assisted living where there were no lights in the room. She was in the dark all day. And I said, she's going to go crazy. This is going to make her lose her mind. There was no phone. There was no lights. There was a window, but light seemed to never come in. And so what happened, it was pretty bad. So a year to the day that she was forcibly taken out of her home. And this is a woman with dignity. I mean, this is a woman who had dignity and has had a very unusual history and would tell wonderful stories about the people that she met, people that she knew, and the things that she had done. A year to the day that she was forcibly taken out of her home, she had a stroke. I knew this was coming because what does an elderly person have to do but look at the calendar? Days after day passes. And they know the date, like a child looks at the calendar, and, oh, it's Christmas or it's Hanukkah. It's some kind of holiday is coming up, and they look forward to it day after day. Except for an elderly person, when something traumatic has happened, and everything that you owned is taken away from you, your life, your freedom, and you were perfectly you may be older, but you were mentally fine. You look at that calendar, and a year to the day, she had a stroke. She didn't die. She just kind of got weak and lost her ability to walk. So she had to be put in a more intensive nursing home. And there she sat, and her daughter never visited her. Would send big bouquets of flowers so everybody could see, and huge pictures of her and her son that's the movie star, to ever remind her. Every day she woke up every morning, and there was the big picture of that grandson that basically her own daughter threw her mother away to get this son that she bought for upwards of $50,000 that was probably manufactured in Russia, probably manufactured for money. So years passed, and the money that the husband left in the account, he had lawyers taking care of it, was running out. But there was one thing, there was her home, was her condo that was left. Now that money in the account was almost dried up. And then suddenly, after not being there for about 9 years, did not see her mother, she came. And she took her mother to California, we think. Can't be Beverly Hills where she's living, because a nursing home in Beverly Hills would cost too much money, and she doesn't want to spend that money. But she took her out just before the money ran out, and the condo was still there with all the antiques. Then the condo was sold. Now in California, 44% of the households are basically not American citizens. They're getting public assistance, and there's 150,000 Americans out of work, mostly African Americans, in LA alone. And as we know that there's feces and needles and all over the streets of beautiful San Francisco, the most beautiful city in America. It was once so beautiful because the door is open. It's a sanctuary state. So they're in the red, and they don't have they live by different laws. They don't have the money to take care of elderly people. So most likely she was shuffled off either to having no money, a nursing home, or she might not understand what anybody's saying. Because I've been in even the nursing homes around here, and the people who work there don't speak to the people in, and also it's not just Spanish, it's also Ghanese. People from Ghana come over to take care of the elderly. And I've been in the presence that these elderly people are there and they stare off because they don't understand the language. And they're watching soap operas all day. It's a hard life. It's difficult taking care of the elderly, I understand. And if you speak a different language, English isn't your first language, it might be difficult to talk to the elderly people and relate to the elderly people. So whoever put together this situation should have made sure people knew how to speak English or whatever the language is that they're of the people that they're taking care of, not punish them because they can't speak Ghanese or Spanish. I've actually heard that's about 130,000 elderly people euthanized, I believe yearly. Somehow it's a hard thing to find on the net. Once you've found it, you should really bookmark it. Because a lot of things on the net that I've found, well, maybe it's my search engine. They're not there anymore. But it is legal to euthanize elderly people. And I have another story of another woman that was on the verge of being euthanized without her nephew stepping in. Because the nieces wanted the money. It wasn't even her children. And the nurse, her private nurse, was siding with the nieces. And there was no reason to euthanize her at all whatsoever. And that's a shocking story, but I won't get into that one. That's a very sticky situation. But like I said, working in a law office and the many jobs that I've had, I knew about these things. You need to find someone that has a good heart that is almost self-sacrificing, who doesn't care about getting any money. Sometimes you're lucky and it's your children. You have a child. But you have to be very careful who you put this power in the hands of. Just because you love your children and children have a lot of power over their parents. It could be, if I don't put this power in your hands, I'll never see you again. You'll never see your children again. You know how heartbreaking that is for a parent. Or I'll never see my grandchild again. It's all happened when the grandchild, she adopted this grandchild. And the mother found it very hard. She thought she was going to see that grandchild till the day she died. Little did she know there were other plans. You have to really know your children and really be honest to yourself about your children. Are they selfish? Isn't that you knock them out of your life, but legally do not put power into that. Not everyone has children that are angels. And this can mean your life. Do this on your own. Just say it's done. It's done. Lawyer's taken care of it. And then say no more. It's done. And if the children have a fit and they stomp out, well, there's a really big sign that your children are upset about what you did. They aren't the ones, there's your proof. They aren't the ones that should have this legal document. Their name should not be on any legal document of yours. If you have good children, you don't have to worry. But you have to look at things right in the face and know who your children are. Know who your family is. Who in your family can you trust? There could be somebody. It could be a friend. You know, you could say, look, it's a difficult decision. This is a simple, such a difficult decision, these things. Healthcare proxy, life and death, power of attorney. I put it in the hands of a friend who would be more disengaged, you know, a little bit. They can step back and look at the big picture. Whereas I felt my family might be a little too emotional, might be a little too difficult to make these decisions. So by putting it in the hands of a friend or an attorney that you trust, that's somebody who's not going to make the decision based on emotion, just like our Supreme Court or any judge. The decisions should not be based on emotion, but the law. What is right and what is wrong, not emotion, because that can cloud your eyes. That's an easy enough answer to give to your children. But you might have good children that you can trust 100%. You might have them. But I'm warning you, all of you, and anybody out there that doesn't have children, whoever you put this in the hands of, and speaking as a paralegal, or once paralegal, done many jobs, someone who really knows what they're talking about, put it in the hands of the right person. Put it in the hands of the right person. Don't let this happen to you. Don't do it. I've seen too many stories. So this is Felina's legal moment, very serious moment. And I thought I would give you shorter videos that cut to the chase, that are going to tell you the truth. But I would suggest, when you do have time, watch the longer videos. Because even though it seems like I'm spinning around, I'm going here and there, at the end of it, you'll have a wealth of information. And you will look at the bigger picture, like racism, in a whole different way. You know, what you've heard, a lot of stuff that they're telling you, they've rewritten history. It's a lie. So I'm trying to tell you the truth. So when you have time, watch a little at a time. Let it soak in. Because you need to know what history really is. You need to know the truth, the hard facts. And we need to get people into office that know the truth, that won't keep repeating lies. And this video is about the truth. Truth, hard facts, very sad stories. Don't let this happen to you. Signing off, thank you for joining me. God bless you. Unless you don't believe in a God, so just bless you. And I do hope many good things come to you. Goodbye.